Today on the AV Podcast, I'm joined by DJ and producer DJ Keo and South Shore family member Sean Adonis as we discuss a bunch of different topics. We talk about the Verzuz event between Redman and Meth Man, remembering DMX and Black Rob. However, we start off the pod by sharing our reactions to the Derek Chauvin guilty verdict, what direction we now take things going forward regarding police brutality, strengthening the community, and more. Before we begin, in case you weren't aware, what's been happening with St. Vincent has been heartbreaking. The volcanoes have been having multiple eruptions, spewing ash and lava all across the country, leaving devastation in its wake. The ash has spread as far as Barbados. People have been losing homes. The agriculture has been destroyed. There's been no running water for weeks. And there's been an evacuation process for the people who are able to leave. There's been people organizing relief in terms of money, clothing, and perishables for the people that desperately needed. Sean's family has organized a GoFundMe page. I think they collaborated with the church for a GoFundMe page where all the proceeds are headed to St. Vincent for relief. His in-laws are Vincentian. I'm going to post a hyperlink for the GoFundMe right in my body, my post. So for those that are able to donate, please do. Every little bit counts. I'll have them discuss it a little bit more at the end of this episode. All right, so thank you for tuning in. South Shore is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit the like button and the follow button if you're on Apple Podcasts. The feature has now changed from subscribe to follow, in case you weren't aware. It costs you nothing to follow and to give me that 5-star review. So I'm just going to be presumptuous and trust that you're going to just do that, all right? And to check out my catalog of all my episodes, right down to the very first one, click on the SouthShoreAv.com. Once again, that's SouthShoreAv.com. And as I was putting this together last night, we lost another rapper in the hip-hop community. Rest in peace to Shock G, the leader of Digital Underground. My thoughts and prayers are with his family. Not only did he have the classic Humpty Dance song, but they helped usher Tupac into the game. It's just a weird time right now for rappers that I came up on. There's no easy way to start the show, but let's get it going. It's the AV Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Ave Radio. Let's go.
Welcome to the AV Podcast with Cal C on South Shore Ave Radio.
Welcome to the AV Podcast. Before we get into this Verzuz battle between Red and Meth and our memories of these artists, as well as DMX and Black Rob, who passed away in the last couple of weeks, the biggest news in the world this week is the verdict of Derek Chauvin in relation to the George Floyd murder. He's found guilty of all charges laid against him, and the sentencing will be announced in 2 months or 8 weeks. With that said, I guess I'll start with you, Sean, since you haven't been on the show in a little bit. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, first let me say, I was glued to my television, man, during this whole trial. Like, I've never actually watched a trial in this great detail.
Probably since OJ.
I watched the OJ trial.
Honestly speaking, I didn't even watch the OJ trial in great detail like that. Like, I watched like the highlights and stuff. But
I watched that back in the day.
Yeah, I wasn't glued to it like that.
Yeah.
But first, the first thing I noticed was like, wow, those courtroom scenes on movies and television are so fake. They're so fake for dramatic effect. Like, there's no, like, they could be saying the most dramatic thing. There was no pacing back and forth and standing in front of the jury and, you know what I mean? Like, spinning back when they said something dramatic. It wasn't none of that stuff. But first and foremost, I gotta say, during the whole trial, I was watching it saying the prosecution is completely pulverizing the defense. You know, like Nelson, the defense lawyer, what he was clinging to as his arguments. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it was his heart. It had nothing to do with Chauvin, and you know the crowd had him all flustered, and he was confused and pulled his mace, and you know, like it just. I mean, he was reaching. I guess it's his job to do that. But anyway, I was nervous, you know, that the outcome wouldn't be what it was. I didn't think that they would find him guilty on all 3 charges. I thought they find him guilty, throw a bone on the lesser one. But when they found him, they deliberated for such a short time, considering how much information there was for them to process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was tough, man. Like, when you saw the video, everybody saw it on YouTube or wherever on Instagram. But when you actually went with them, frame by frame, and how they were dissecting it, and he said this at this point and that at another point, and showing how compliant he was, showing that the cop walked up to him with his gun drawn, cursing him out. You know what I mean? It's like, you see that, man, and it's like, yo, they really, really treated this man like he was an animal, man. And it's like, this was such an important moment, because either way, if this would have went the other way, it would have made that statement to the police like, listen, we're good. We can keep treating them like animals. It doesn't matter. They're going to protect us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, the right thing was done here, I think that was monumental. It was amazing to see him handcuffed and brought out, escorted out. Was like, I rewound that. I replayed that like more than you could imagine, to the point my finger was getting numb from rewinding that. And it's like, today, I don't know if you saw him, his new mugshot with the orange jumpsuit. Like, I think I may have to bring that to the tattoo parlor, the tattoo shop. You know what I mean? Because it's like, fucking bastard. Like, he sat there on the dude's neck, so smug, with his hands in his pockets, and look at you now with your orange jumpsuit, man. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really answer a question. I just narrated my experience, the whole thing, to be honest. But anyway, I was glued to it. The whole family was glued to it.
Yeah.
Crazy story. There's this black person, right, that works with me. And I was speaking to her yesterday. And, we were in a meeting together, like right after the verdict. And after that, when the meeting was over, she's like, hey, can I talk to you? We had to have a follow-up call about the meeting. So I came on the phone and she's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you believe that verdict? Oh, isn't it amazing? And she's like, what verdict? I was like, the Chauvin verdict, like George Floyd. Oh, yeah. I was so confused. I thought every black person on the planet was glued to their television. Like, Karen put a do not disturb on her team's on her team's messenger.
Your wife, for the people who don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. And like, if anybody was like, hey, like, I had a meeting to go to, and like, I was saying, man, if you guys drag this out, I'm gonna have to decline this meeting. Like, there's no way I could have been anywhere else but watching that verdict, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, sorry, Keo. Let before I say my piece, what are your thoughts on it?
Overall, like, I'm definitely glad that he got charged and everything like that, and the thing's over with. Like, well, actually, say it's not over with. Like, I'm glad justice was served on that front, but I feel like for the court of law and prosecution, whatever, all of this was a win-win for them, whether he won or they lost, because what's really on trial here is the state and the policing. So if he's convicted guilty, then the state goes to go, well, hey, look, we got the bad apple. It's not our fault how we handle policing. Look, we got it out of control. Look, we dealt with it. If he got off, then they would be like, well, the way he policed was correct, and so we don't need to change anything. I think that a lot of this stuff, like the community is going to get short-lived results from this trial. I don't see, because all the people who are in position to change anything, let me say for policing, whatever, they're loving this conviction here because all the pressure is off of them. If they convict the other guys and say they're manslaughter or whatever just for them being there, this whole thing is done for them. They don't have to go on anymore. All of the pressure that they had built up was on this one guy. The other guys is just also thing too.
Yeah, the
You know what I'm
accessories
saying? Like,
basically.
yeah, it's just an extra. It's a layup. It's the extra point. The main thing was getting this guy, but the actual changing how police interact with people or why they interact with people is not going to change from this.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that was bugging me the most, and especially because the response to what happened with Floyd in general, everybody burnt down the community. That was, to me, the people burning down their cities. It angered me so much because, say, like the people in government, they automatically tune out of, oh, I don't have to worry about this anymore. They're going to just focus on the burning, like the
Yeah, that's
Republicans and
true.
conservatives.
Yeah.
They're just going to focus on the burning and just be like, black people acting crazy. Don't worry about why they were acting crazy. And and the other thing too that angered me about this whole situation was that the black people who live in the hood, there's only one grocery store. If you're in, like, when I was in Ozone Park in New York,
Yeah.
there was one corner store where we got food from that had like fruit. If you burnt that store down, we would have to get on the subway to get fresh fruit from that neighborhood, which is insane. And
Yeah. Kind
all
of.
the rioting and stuff like that, they, it hurt poor people more than it helps do any kind of justice for Floyd or even
That is
policing
true.
in general.
Kind of
And
reminds you. Kind of reminds you of the L.A. riots, like with Compton, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
you only think about the LA riots. What's changed after the riots? Nothing, because they didn't have to change anything after the riots. The riots was the focus. That's the only thing they talk about. You don't talk about Rodney King or Reginald Daniel or any of these other things. The only thing they focused on was the riot. It kind of cleared the path for the people who have to make the laws or how they deal with this stuff. It kind of gives them a free pass every time we're not focused and organized. And people were, there was a moment in time last year, everybody, white people were looking at me like, Keel, what can I do to help? Like, what can we do? And then they started burning things down, and they're like, black people. I'm like, yo,
Yeah,
we
it's
lost
definitely
this
a black
moment
guy.
in time.
Yeah.
It's like, you think about this, right? You had Ben Shapiro, you had uh, Alex Jones, you had all the right wing crazy people were like, oh, damn, man, we got to do something about police. This is crazy. And then now they're like, Chauvin should have probably got out. But like, there was a moment in time in 2020 when everybody was looking at each other like, oh, snap,
Yeah.
black people got problems. What are we doing here? And then I I'm not to take away from like the emotions or whatever, because I had that too. But I'm I'm always been like a long-term thinker about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was looking how the shift from the conservatives and right-wing people and the people in government who can actually do something. And it seemed to me a lot of pandering and a lot of people, they were like, it's not a problem. We don't have to worry about it now anymore. And it just, you can see that shift. And I think that as black people as a whole, we got to be organized better, and we have to get these bad apples out of the bunch. We people were during the summer. I don't want to drag this on too long. I was looking at people like it's just property. They have insurance. I'm like, what? In the hood, people got insurance? What are you talking about? That's insane. And then I'm seeing like Target and Walmart is a superstore where they got food and groceries in there. And I saw this video of this black woman, and she's holding her kid on her hip, and she's walking through the Walmart trying to get milk for her baby who's crying. And I was like, what the fuck? I've never been so mad in my entire life. Like all the anger I had for Chauvin and all the stuff that happened, just it went out the window when I saw that picture, the video of this black woman with her kid trying to find milk with all the broken bottles and smashed up fruit and vegetables and everything
Because they
just
destroy Target. Or
stomped
whatever,
on. Yeah, I'm like, yo, this is we need to focus our anger, and we lost this opportunity with the whole world. People in London, people in Canada, they're talking about this thing,
There were
and
marches in
we
France all over. There's marches all over the world,
France, they were
basically.
marching in France,
Yeah.
Italy, they were marching for George Floyd, and we lost this opportunity to actually do something about it. Now it's way too late now.
But I think I still I'll said it before and I'll say it again. I think one of the biggest things was that with the whole world being under lockdown and that happening at the same time, it was like a big, it was like everything went into that big melting pot, right?
Yeah, for sure. It
Like
enhanced it.
Yeah, it enhanced everything because where was our attention? We didn't have attention on everything,
There's nothing else to do.
anything, but other than like Netflix and even sports wasn't on, right? Like it's hard. It's almost hard to remember that, but like there was literally nothing on. Like I remember like one of my favorite shows, Billions. Like that once that stopped, I was like, okay, what am I really gonna do now? Like there's
that's true. It stopped since then, right?
Everything stopped.
Everything stopped.
This thing happened.
Everything stopped, right? Like so shows that was in production all just cut short and stuff. So you're just like, oh my. So there was literally nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of other than just watching the news and being fearful of everything that's happening, and then. And then boom, you see that now and it's like, okay, all this displaced angst, energy, anger, everything else is now our focus is all on this. So I thought that was like the positive in that, right? In terms of that energy. But my focus is the question I always keep asking about this stuff is what are we gonna do after the protests fade and after this happens now? So now in a situation, okay, we got this. As a community, black community, we got the results that we wanted, right? We got everything that we wanted to hear. To me now, it's like, okay, going forward, like you cannot sit and rest on this. Like this isn't the time to like kick up your feet and, like relax yourself and just, party on down to the Escape beat. Let's sit in the song. Like this isn't the time to do that. You know what I mean? Like this isn't the time to do that. Like if anything, like honestly, I think I even posted a message saying like basically like, yo, we got to keep going until like we're not worrying about any of this stuff anymore, which could take. I mean, are you prepared to do this for decades? You know what I mean? Like this is what it's going to take. I don't think this is not like to think this fight is over in just this one case. Think again, right? Like there's so much work that has to be done. There's so much work that has to be done right now. So that's like the thing I came away from it. So it's like. I know Sean was saying earlier, like where you're saying, like, yo, you didn't really digest the OJ case the way that you did. I kind of felt the same way about this case, which sounds weird to say because I've been talking about this George Floyd situation so much. I watched a little bit of it, and then I just said, you know what, I'm gonna. I think I don't know. It's like my energy just wasn't ready to like watch. Like when I heard like, I think actually not what I heard, but when I saw one of the witnesses like break. I think there was the old man that broke down and cried. After that, I was just like, you know what? I'll just watch highlights. Like I don't need to put myself through this again. And I just decided to pick and choose what I was going to watch. But it's weird. I never felt nervous about what the results were going to be. I just for some reason, I think just because with everything that happened, I'm like even just I think it's detrimental if he gets off because I'm like it was such a world. It was such a world event in terms of what he did. It became such a world phenomenon in a bad way. You know what I mean? Like it brought so much attention. And then what didn't help is the cop that last week that shot that kid in his car instead of pulling the taser.
That was terrible, man.
That was also in Minnesota. Philando Castile was also in Minnesota.
Yeah, like down the street from him, man.
Yeah, like this, like all this stuff happening in Minnesota in the last few years. Like they can't afford to like have this guy walk the streets again. Like this. Like this was the point where it's like you have an opportunity now to make an example, and it's like I think they kind of did that.
But you guys saw this morning, right? That the Attorney General announced that they're launching the Justice Department is launching an investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department, right?
No, I didn't see that.
No, I did not see that. I did not see that actually.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But Biden put his money where his mouth is, man.
Okay.
The Justice Department is officially investigating the Minneapolis Police Department for their practices, their discriminatory practices.
Well, they have to. I think they have to at this point. Like,
no, they don't have to. They don't have to, bro. I mean, like honestly speaking, like Biden could have sat back and like he called the Floyd family and congratulated them and stuff. But now he's actually taken action. You know what I mean? And it's impressive and
Well,
it's
no,
good to see.
I'm not saying that he had. So I'm just saying like the situation in terms of the police department being investigated, like that's something that needed to happen yesterday.
Oh yeah,
I mean? Like
That should happen last year.
Yeah, like well, I mean, really and truly, since Philando Castile in 2016, like if that also happened in Minnesota, like that,
Minnesota's terrible. Man.
Yeah, it's an implicit bias, like 'cause even with the woman last week, it's like even if you believe the story that she did it by accident. I was talking to somebody today that was a cop, and even he's like, "Yo,
yeah, I don't buy that. That's not an accident."
Yeah, like most cops you talk
he was
to, they're
trading the dude.
Exactly. Most cops that you talk to are like, "Listen, man, like, yo, you could make a mistake, but it's such a hard mistake to make because you're trained. You're trained. Yeah, you're trained to know which side to go to. You know, you pull your taser, you're crossing your body. It's like a quarter of the weight of a gun. It's a different color. You know what I mean? Like there's so much different things that go into it.
There's a lot of stuff. Like I don't understand the taser. I mean, here's the crazy part about that story. Had she not said taser, that thing would have been totally different.
Yeah.
Because that guy was fighting with them and tried to get away. If she never said taser, that entire situation would be different.
Yeah,
that's how crazy the police department is.
It's true, and the funny thing is, like, trust me, I'm never one to give the police any type of slack or any type of benefit of the doubt, I should say. But the fact that she kept on yelling "taser, taser, taser," and I think she's that incompetent that she thought that she had the taser. With that said, incompetence is no reason for her not to be prosecuted. You know what I mean? A lot of people are dead because of people's mistakes. I could do something by mistake right now, and the cop ain't gonna be like, "Oh, it was a mistake. It's okay. Don't worry about it." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think it was a mistake. I think it was her incompetence. I think it was incompetence across the board. They left him next to his running car, which was, that's against their protocol. Mm-hmm. But with that said, this benefit of the doubt that I'm giving them, they don't deserve that because of all the instances that you've mentioned. That's why you guys are saying I don't believe it was a mistake, because the Minneapolis Police Department haven't earned that type of
leeway.
Yeah, because they're just so blatantly discriminatory. Like I was listening to something the other day about this other dude that got. He got like, I don't know, something like 18 years in jail for something he didn't commit, and they were going through like the actual trial and stuff like that. And the way the Minneapolis police like really just didn't give a shit and want to pin the murder on him and ignore every other thing that was pointing against him being guilty was disgusting. They just threw this guy's life in the trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it's sickening. It's sickening.
Well, it brings me to and I you know what, I've been watching her videos today, like, and I wish I could remember her name now. Her name escapes me, but the 17-year-old, the young lady who actually was the one that filmed the situation with George Floyd. Now I always think like, yo, imagine she didn't pull out her phone. I mean, I think somebody would have, but in this day and age especially, but can you imagine like to bear that kind of responsibility as like a late teen? You know what I mean? Like especially with what that police department has done in that community for so long, and you're having something on your phone that's basically like it's gonna send this guy to jail, but you don't know what the ramifications are gonna be. You know what I mean? Like if you're still living in that city for you, you know what I mean? Like it's unfortunate that she had to go through that, but I think we all have to thank her for doing it, because we finally saw some sort of justice in the situation. But like I said, it's not something to celebrate, man. You know what it kind of reminds me of?
It should be normal.
Yeah, like you're celebrating something that's very basic. It's a basic fundamental right that like somebody takes accountability, whether you're on other side of the law, whether you're working with the police or what have you. The fact that we're celebrating like this is a big win. This should be like something that is like as normal as breathing air. So the fact that we're like, people are crying in the streets and stuff, and trust me, I completely get it, but it's just unfortunate. Like, it's sad to me that like we're celebrating this. It's just one of those things where it's like we're celebrating something that's supposed to happen. That is supposed to happen. And I mentioned this. Sorry, not to cut you, but this my last point. But just like I mentioned this in the last part about George Floyd, where it's like, if you're paying out the family out of the pension now, or out of this person's pension, do they police different? Like that's
going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's something you kind of have to revisit. So maybe that's the way to kind of stop this, right?
That will never happen, bro.
I know that. I know that.
Never happen.
I know that.
See, here's the thing, though. I think that this is going to create different problems, because what's going to happen is the people who are the quote unquote good cops, they're going to quit. They're not going to stay here. The people like George Floyd that enjoy doing this stuff, they're going to stay.
And
The
Chauvin?
people,
Yeah.
the Chauvin, sorry.
Yeah.
The people who've got the slight disposition of we want to help, they're looking at all of the hate going towards police in general instead of just these type of police. Like, did you see the numbers of morale for Minnesota police? Like, it's through the toilet.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in New York.
Yep.
It's the same thing in Seattle.
Mhm.
It's the same thing in parts of Texas. Same thing in California. Morale's through the toilet. And so what's going to happen is all the people who thought, hey, I'm going to become a police officer, I'm going to make a difference,
I'm gonna make a change.
they're going to quit. Because they're going to be like, why am I putting up with this crap? I don't want to be around these people. And who's going to be left? The Napoleon complex people. That's all you're going to have left
True.
is police officers. And then they have an ego because of all this stuff that's happened. I don't know. I think when I see stuff like this, I always say that there's going to be trade-offs. There's going to be short-term wins and long-term losses
effects,
unless they handle this thing different. Like, partly, I think that black people need to police themselves. Why would you, if police are, every time they come down there, you're going to have a problem, why wouldn't you handle it like the Jewish community or like the Arab community? Like, if you go to New York, Arab community has their own police that just work with them only. And then they have the regular cops that go by. I don't know if you've seen it. Like, you can look this up. The people in the Arab community in New York, they have vans and cars that are painted like squad cars that say Arab or whatever the thing is for the community on it. It's painted and it looks exactly like a squad car. And those guys handle their situations for them.
Yeah, but that's wow, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a zero sum. Like, no matter what, you're going to get benefits and losses from the thing. And I think for the black community, the only way to get around this is to have people from your community policing your community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I never
it is a good
in
point.
New York, actually. Go on.
What's that?
No, I didn't even know they did this in New York, actually. But
it's Jewish community has their own police, man.
Yeah, I actually never knew that.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, listen. At the end of the day, I think that it's become incredibly blatant that black people's lives are not valued in America, right? No matter what, you'll still have people, a lot of people in America and worldwide that'll say, well, hey, if you listen, that never would have happened, right? And that's how, they look at us. They look at us as people that are supposed to stay in their place, and if we don't, things might happen. When I say they, I don't mean, of course, everybody, but we're still fighting that mentality. You know what I mean? And it's that mentality that, I won't say it's a zero sum like Keo said, but it's that mentality that has to truly be defeated before we see significant change, and I think that you're going to see some change, like I said, just because of the fact that this kind of, drew a line in the sand and showed cops, okay, those days where no cop is going to pay for anything, those days are at least in trouble. I won't say over, but you can't just say, "Hey, don't worry, I can do what I want and I'm cool." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that alone should have an impact and should lower the the amount of times that we have to have these type of situations. But to Kio's point, there's things the Black community could and should do to police themselves, but I think we're quite far from that. So I don't know.
Oh, for sure. But do you believe that because of like the police know that there's people with cameras around the corner that we're going to get less policing? So when you really need them, they're not going to show up?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
I mean,
there's been a drop of actual police on the force from this entire year. It dropped like 20%.
Yeah.
So I think that
the police were never there to protect us anyway. So
yeah. But I'm saying like there's gonna come a time when people need a police to show up, and there's gonna be if the response time was 10 minutes with the amount of people that are on the force now, because there's less people on the force, response time is gonna be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
You can't get around that. It's just gonna happen just because there's less people.
Right.
So as I'm saying is that I feel if you have low morale plus you have less people in the force, I think the trade-off is going to be less policing when you really
but
need
honestly
them to
speaking,
show up.
that's an unfortunate reality that they brought on themselves. This whole blue wall, the way they bind together to back somebody no matter what they've done, like they brought this on themselves, man. So
yeah, but it's going to affect us, though.
Yeah, but what are you going to, like, it could affect us, but that's the unfortunate reality, man. Like,
oh, for sure.
The alternative was just to keep on going with the same old same, and it couldn't be that. You know what I mean? So you're right. There may be some negative impact, but I'm willing to take this just so that they could know, listen, this blue wall, it's not impenetrable, man. And you guys are going to have to, there's some comeuppance to be had with all of your behavior. And if that means that the world has to look at you now to the point where it's lowered your morale and then you want to bail and then we have to, like you said, suffer with the ones that are not great cops, reality, they weren't there to protect us anyway, man. So I mean,
it's funny.
I don't know.
It's funny. The sad thing is, like, it reminds me of those, like, some of those videos. You're speaking about different states and cities and stuff across the world, but I always think of like the cops in Brooklyn that were just like just knocking people's blocks off during those marches. Like just stomping over women, pushing them, sending them flying. You know what I mean? Like remember the old man in Buffalo where the cop just shoved him aside and he cracked his head open and. Like, there's just so much things and videos that was out there that it just did not show them in a good light. It really didn't. Like, I remember that police chief in New York that was like, he was almost having like a Braveheart moment in front of the media. Like basically with you remember that, right? Like where he's basically coming after the media because like how they're looking down on police and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. So when you're talking about morale being down, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. 2020 was not a good. It was not a good look. Not just because of the Chauvin thing, but just like some of the way that there was moving, like in the States, especially like in terms of some of those marches and like it just was not a good look, man. Like I was watching some of those videos, like astonished, honestly. Like I was watching some of that shit, just like wow, I can't believe he just that cop just literally just two hands shoved that girl in her face. And sent her flying into people. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, it just, it was an abuse of power in some ways where you're just like, yeah, I know you're trying to clear the streets, but like even something simple as that, where it's like, yeah, people are marching, people are frustrated. Like, this isn't the way to do this, man. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this, and this, and it just wasn't a good look, man. So I totally understand that part of it, but there's a lot of things. This is why I say like there's a long way to go. Like we really shouldn't be celebrating the fact that Chauvin's going to jail. It's like we got the win, but we shouldn't be celebrating that one win. You know,
Yeah, it's like it's the first quarter, man.
that's just like halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you won the Super Bowl already. Like, nah, man, you just got started.
Yeah, we just
I
barely
That's
had
why I
tip-off.
feel.
Yeah.
That honestly, that's why I feel, because I'm like, if who's going to be left on the force is trash, and response time is going to be slower, and you got to deal with all this extra crap. We need to pick up the slack and be like, well, we don't want to deal with you at all. Like, we need to try and in our own way avoid them as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to figure out a way to deal with police less. And that, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of this stuff, it sounds good on paper, but people gotta actually deal with real crackheads and people jumping them and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not easy to be
I've lived in the hood.
either. Yeah.
I've been to all kind of real hoods all over the America, and I look at some of the people who live there. I'm like, yo, I don't know how you guys do this, man. Being there in a short time, I feel on edge. Like, I was in California. I went through this area in Compton, and like, you got the Boys in the Hood vibe of, oh, this is cool, like, it's like the movies. And then after a while, they're like, oh snap, like, people actually live here, and this whole block is burnt out, and there's crackheads and women selling themselves, and little kids are playing in front of the crack house. Like, yo, this is wild, man.
You realize, like, yo, this kind of is Boys of the Hood. Like, this isn't good.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, what we see on TV, well, what a lot of people are living through in the areas is not even a drop in a bucket. It's like a drop of sand in the ocean for people who got to live in these areas where they require police, and they require people like full on SWAT team just patrolling the streets so some old grandmother can go to the store without getting robbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just
it's bugged out.
It is wild what these guys are dealing with right now, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what the answer is. Like, everything sounds good on paper, but if you live there and you actually got to deal with this on a daily basis, I think that our interpretation about what to do is going to be wildly off. Like, all three of us live in fairly safe areas. Like, we're not worried about people shooting in our house in the middle of the night,
right?
And then hoping to call somebody or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not around that. And fortunately, I can't speak for you guys, but like, for me, I've seen it in small bursts, and I've been around it a little bit when I was growing up. But it's more of, hey, I'm on vacation. I'm gonna go visit my cousin real quick. But yeah, I'm gonna leave here in a couple of days, and I never have to come back again. Like, my feeling towards what these people are dealing with is just, you can't relate.
Yeah,
it's all theoretical to a lot of people. I'm not speaking for you guys, but for me, a lot of this stuff is theoretical arguments about what to do, and I don't have the answers, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a deep conversation that nobody wants to have. The politicians, the Congress people, the people who live in the district, the aldermen, the judges, the police. Nobody wants to have this conversation. The actual teachers that live there, the people who live there and work there, the people who have a store. Nobody wants to have this conversation about what to do. And that's my concern. And that's why I was kind of frustrated with the Floyd thing, is that we had an opportunity to kind of have this conversation, and people wanted to have a conversation that wouldn't even get their pinky dipped into this area. And I wouldn't say we blew it, but we're squandering it right now for sure.
I don't know, man. It's such an extent, and maybe I don't know, Calvin. We may either have to move on or just make this our only topic. But like, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with it. The only problem is like, how do you do that when the very people that we're talking about needing to start changing the way they think just don't see us that way, bro?
Well, okay, perfect example out this is Baltimore. Like, Baltimore has been burnt out since the '60s, and we
Mm.
all watched The Wire, and that's Baltimore. Baltimore still looks like that.
And I haven't, and I had a
Baltimore,
chance to drive through so Baltimore a couple of times.
yeah,
Yeah, that wire shit is real. That ain't
Baltimore
that is not
has
acting.
gotten billions of dollars to fix Baltimore, and it went into the people's pockets that lived there and worked there. It just went there, just, the money just went poof. And like, how are we supposed to fix this thing if nobody's doing their job, and their job is just to keep it the same? If you really
Yeah.
think about it like that, what's the dude that says she on the wire? I forgot his name. But like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
that guy, he's he's all of Baltimore. He's got the drug dealers giving him money. He's got the government giving him money. That's all of
Oh,
Baltimore.
Clay Davis. Is it
Clay
Clay
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Detroit.
yeah,
My aunt lives in Southfield in Michigan.
Mhm.
Since I was a child, I've been driving through the burnt out area of Detroit to get to her house in Southfield.
Now,
It's still burnt out.
now, is it true? Because I've never been to Detroit, but I know a bunch of people who's been there, and they always tell me when you're flying into Detroit, it just looks like brown. Like,
Yeah,
is
no.
that,
Like,
is that the
once
is
you
that the
cross
thing?
over the bridge or go into the tunnel to get to
I'm not even
Windsor
talking
and the
drive. I'm
area,
talking even flying in.
yeah, no, like that. The area of Detroit is like a gray cloud of mist. Is just over it, just the city. And
Wow.
then you drive past. It's like a I-9. I can't remember what highway it is, a 95 or something. And you just go look a little bit further east. Clear skies, sunny.
yeah.
It's it's got a curse over it.
That's crazy.
And they got casinos down there. Their taxes are crazy. They're generating all kind of revenue, and the revenue just goes poof. And that's why I mentioned Baltimore and Detroit, because these are two cities that we're in charge of. And
Mhm.
it's not like we got to go out of I got to go to Maryland to beg for money, whatever. Baltimore is controlled by black people, majority black people, black police, black judges, black lawyers, black prosecutors, black teachers. They run the whole city. How do we fix that?
Yeah, because it's continuing to happen.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know, man. I honestly don't know. It frustrates me. I don't want to overtake this whole thing, but like, it is.
No,
I've
you're
been
bringing up
there,
good points.
man.
You're bringing up good points,
It frustrates me. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
and that's the sad
Oh, that
thing.
is a good point, man. I actually didn't think about that when you're right. Like cities like Baltimore and Detroit, especially Baltimore, I think,
Hmm.
run by black people, man. So if anything, you should be seeing some level of progress if we're taking care of our own,
Yeah.
you know?
Like, is there a situation, and that's the thing, right? Like, we celebrate Atlanta as being like the black city,
Hmm.
right? But like, should like Baltimore or like a Detroit, as you're saying, for example, or an Oakland, you know what I mean? Like, where's the next Atlanta? You know what I mean? I guess
It
that's the
should be.
question too. Like, there should be there shouldn't just be one Atlanta. There should be more than a few. Like, it's not just Atlanta and maybe like Washington D.C. Like, there should be a
But the
few.
wild part about it is Detroit used to be Atlanta,
No, you're right.
and so
You're
did
right.
Baltimore.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right.
Both
Jobs
those
and everything
places.
else left the
Yeah.
city. Right. The
Well,
infrastructure,
like,
the economy completely got destroyed.
yeah, a good chunk of it was the riots that hurt that city,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and that's why when I thought about what happened in Detroit and a lot of these other cities that predominantly run by black people, or they have black, people who live there, and if there's some kind of major destruction to the city, I'm just like, there's nobody's coming to fix this,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
there's no insurance company, there's no Amazon going to put a factory over there. There's nothing coming to fix this thing. All the people with money, they're going to move out and go to the suburbs or just go to a
Yep.
different state.
And that's what continues
And
happening.
whatever's left is left.
And you got pro teams, you got sports teams that are there. Like,
Yeah.
the Ravens are a big part of of the fabric of the community, but most of them don't live in Baltimore, right?
They
Like, they all
live
live
in Baltimore.
County. Like they're all outside.
Yeah, they're way out. Like, I have a cousin who lives in Maryland, and I drove past the Ravens Stadium, and it's the same thing like the Detroit Stadium. It's like nice, and like
Beautiful.
What in the hell happened?
Yeah, beautiful. It's like in the middle of like I had a chance to go to a game, and the stadium is beautiful. The Ravens Stadium is beautiful.
Yeah.
You see the Ray, the Ray Lewis statue, the Raven statue, all that stuff. You drive not even 5 minutes. I'd be lying if I said 5 minutes. You drive 2.5 minutes, 90 seconds, I would say, maybe outside of the stadium, and it looks like Amsterdam. Like if you watch The Wire, it looks like Amsterdam. Right, so it's like it's crazy. Like I've never been to Detroit, but just seeing that in Baltimore, I'm like, yo, like this is you're seeing that in Camden Yards where the Orioles play, but then literally like you drive like literally 2 minutes outside of it, and it's like you might run up on Avon Barksdale. Like it's crazy.
Absolutely. That's what it looks like though. And Detroit's the same way. You hop off the bridge, and then the Lions Stadium is there, the Red Wings Stadium is there. And they got a casino and some restaurants, and you just keep driving, and it just falls apart. Just a couple blocks.
Yeah, I've been to Detroit once actually, couple of years ago to see a Chris Rock show. I was staying at I can't remember which hotel it was, but it had a casino in it. As a matter of fact,
Is it the one with the lion on it?
I don't remember, but we were staying right downtown, and we went by 7 Mile, I think it was, to eat at this chicken place, which was really good. And yeah, when you leave the downtown core and go, I won't say off the beaten path, but away from downtown, more where the people live and what have you. Yeah, it was a lot sketchier. It wasn't. Like there was some places you looked at and like, holy shit, does anybody live there? Like some places was bad. Like you said, burnt out, and you're like, what the hell is this, man? Like you did see a lot of that, man. It's really sad, actually, man, to think of a city that was once booming, and what happened with the exodus of all those manufacturing jobs. It's really sad, man.
Yeah. No, it's
really sad.
You're right. So I guess that's the question where it comes from is like, where are the next Atlantas coming from? Like what can they do to kind of change that? You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't have the answer to that either, like at least not at the top of my head at this moment, but like I think you have to start seeing a little bit more of those too, And
well, I mean, we got more resources than we've ever had in this country.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of had a selfish attitude about what to do with it. And if you think about how many entertainers, how many actual business people, forget entertainers. Let's chop that off. Forget entertainers.
Yeah.
How many black lawyers? How many black doctors? How many black architects? How many black engineers are there now versus what there used to be 30 years ago?
Yeah.
That number's got to be incredible.
Yeah, it's grown.
And everybody's see this thing, I don't have the answer, and I don't like watching people's pockets about what they need to do. But if you were hurt by what happened to Floyd and a lot of this stuff, and you have the resources and ability to do something, you have to.
And I think that's the part of and I know we're having this conversation on the fly. This is why I kind of like this conversation, actually. But I think part of this too is how they say like recycling the black dollar and keeping that kind of like in house is like it's like I think last year you saw the spirit of that happen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My thing is like, okay, now like almost a year out from that situation now. Is that like, where is that? I don't know. I have the stats for that because we're freestyling this conversation, but like, where is that going? Like, is that energy still as strong as it was in July of 2020?
I don't think so.
What I mean? Like,
no, I don't think so either.
Are people still, like, I know that was going around crazy, and you're still seeing it, but I don't know how strong it is as opposed to what it was before.
It's fizzled out somewhat.
And to me, that's where that's the foundational block of where that starts, right? is keeping that in house.
Yeah,
or keeping it in house
I
as
think
much time
what
as
Keo
possible.
said is true, though. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I finished my point.
I said what Keo said is true. Realistically speaking, no one's going to do it for us, man. So it's a sad state of affairs that, the example you brought up, like Baltimore and stuff, where black people have the power to make change and put that change ahead of their own interests. And, they seem to be losing that test. And that's really sad, man. And so until we do that, like you said, no one's gonna come fix it up for us.
Yeah, man. There's nobody coming to save us. If we wanna fix our community, especially like housing, this kind of stuff, and people of poverty and lack of jobs and stuff like that, there's no Amazon, there's no anything coming to save us. If you want to do it, you need to make up a business and employ people. And I'll give you an example of this. When I lived in St. Louis, my dad started a nursing agency, and he hired a bunch of nurses back then when I was a kid. A bunch of nurses from the city, in their city and stuff like that. And people, we were sending them to, white nursing homes and stuff like that. But like, here's a guy who brought his family from Canada down to America and is employing Americans.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah, it's true.
We gotta. That's why I always feel like there's nobody coming to save us. If we're upset about Floyd, we need our own police officers that went through the force or whatever, dealing with our stuff. We need our own lawyers that are going to take our case. Because the other thing too, especially in a black community, I think West Indians are more likely to work together with each other, but black Americans, do not want to work with each other. We'll work together. We'll go to the West Indian grocery store. We'll go to the West Indian restaurant. But I think that, and it's been my experience, and this is anecdotal for sure, but I think that a lot of black people don't really want to work together. And that's a huge hindrance to their community, is that they won't go to the person who's a lawyer who just graduated. They're not going to go to the real estate agent that just graduated. They're not going to go to, what I'm saying, like the doctor that opened up a clinic. They're not going to go to them. They would rather go outside their community, especially when they have money or resources. But other cultures don't do that. If somebody is like a Jewish person that just graduated, their family is going to line up all the business they need to start their business, wherever they need. Their cousins, their whatever. They're going to be like, yo, my cousin's just graduated. He's a doctor. You should give him a call if you need something. They're going to do that. We don't do that. And I think that for our community, we're so divided and so independent from each other, from the men, from the women, from the different cultures. The African people don't talk to the West Indians, to the Americans, to the whatever. Like, we're all just little pockets of something. And then we have something like Floyd happen where, we're all coming together and we all agree, okay, this is bad, but we all go back to our little pockets after. If, one of us is going to start a business, everybody like, that's cool, but I'll go to this guy over here. He's got, more people and whatever. Like, it's not good,
or it's
man.
cheaper.
Or it's cheaper. Or, it's out of my way. I don't want to bother with that. Or he doesn't have a website. Yeah, like this. It's like, we do not support each other at all. And that, to me, that's a bigger hindrance than all of the police and all this other crap that we're dealing with.
That's true. That's a fact. That's definitely a fact.
Well, it's funny. I'm not sure how to kind of segue into this, but there was there was a business that was started last year during this pandemic called Verzuz. And
nicely done. I tip my hat to you, man. Nicely done.
I tried, but that business that was co-created by Swiss Beats and Timberland, they had another event last night as of this recording between Method Man and Redman. And I know some of you, both of you, watched it for the most part. Like, what were your overall events about the event? And then basically just about those rappers when you're watching them perform. Like, what were your thoughts on them? I guess I'll start with you, Sean. There you go. Put you on the spot. Spotlight's on you.
You see about last night in general, or
Yeah, just
sorry,
just yeah, last night in general, and just your overall thoughts on just watching them perform. Like any memories that come up, like watching Red and Meth, and just just their impact on the game, all that.
I mean, first of all, I missed half of it, like I was telling you, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first half, and then when I tuned in, they were doing they dug these songs out of the trash can somewhere, and the songs they were doing, I was like, what is this garbage? It was terrible. And then I'm like, man, I was like tuning out, and then all of a sudden they dusted off some of the hot shit. Man, I gotta say, Red and Meth have something that you don't see anymore. And even back in the day when they were hot together, I said it, or everybody said it back then. Man, those guys can perform, man.
They really can.
Like those guys are amazing. The way they feed off each other's energy, the way they just are able to command the stage together and complement each other. Man, those guys could perform, man. Like when I was watching it, I went into there thinking to myself, kind of like I thought during the Ghostface Raekwon versus.
Yeah,
I'm like, I said, I don't really want to see a versus with guys. It's going to be a concert. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I like watching a concert online or on television. To me, is not incredibly exciting. Usually, especially when it's hip hop, because hip hop concerts, they just stand there and rap. So unless I'm there, I don't really want to see it on television.
The energy is completely different when you're watching it in person.
Yeah, like I mean, like the Ghostface Ray one had some, humorous, some comic relief to it, with Ghostface's pants, being down to his knees and all kind of stuff. But I was expecting kind of the same thing with this one last night, but I was mistaken, man. Like I said, the performances were great. Meth is in great shape. Jeez, man. Like I heard he worked out like that, but to help deal with, he was like had some insomnia. He was suffering from insomnia, so he decided to work out, like to help with his sleep and stuff. And I guess like he really took.
He's been like that for a few years now.
Yeah, he's in great shape. And Redman is funny. Remember Redman back in the day, like when he Redman wasn't a small guy. Like he wasn't muscular. You know what I mean? But back in the day, like even maybe before Meth, I think around his first album, around the Hit Squad days, he was kind of like a stocky guy. But anyway, he's super skinny now, right? And I mean, he looked like, they both look like young dudes. Like like you can watch something, and it's like, man, look at them, those two old dudes hobbling around the stage. Their energy was both young, mind you. Redman's face looks like, remember that character Droopy the dog? Like Redman, his whole aura, his whole everything about him, head to toe, his aura, his energy is young except his face. Redman looks like he's 60 in the face, man. Like, and he looks like
he lost too much weight.
Yeah, he lost a lot of weight, but he looks like Droopy the dog, like the cartoon. Like he looks exactly like Droopy the dog. Like it looks like Method Man was like up there with his uncle or something, man. Like Redman looked old, man. Other than that, man, like I thoroughly enjoyed the half that I saw. It was one of the more enjoyable. I can't say verses because it wasn't really a verses, but it was something that I really enjoyed, being the fact that I was expecting to shit all over it, and I thought it was really good. Like, that brought me back to some tunes. I forgot how many hits that, like, them, especially Redman. Redman, sometimes you forget how many hits this dude had. Method Man, I wasn't surprised because the hits he has, but a lot of his hits, mind you, are not his own songs because his albums were garbage. But
shots, fired. Go on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, come on, you can't argue that. Method Man's albums are trash for the most part. Like the fillers were boring. But yeah, man, Redman has so many hits, many hits.
Well,
and
I think you have to congratulate Method Man for, I think last night officially I got to check Twitter again, but I think he officially became a zaddy. According to most people who watched it last night. Because some of the memes I was watching, I was like, yeah, maybe even my wife was like, basically like I couldn't talk to her when anytime she was looking at Method Man. Like, I don't know about you. I don't know if you were getting mushed in the face, Sean, last night, but I kind of was anytime Method Man was on screen. But
Karen doesn't watch that. Doesn't watch them
okay,
things.
yeah. But if she did, you would get body checked out the way, basically. You know.
They have to have a Soca versus for her to watch it, believe me.
Which I'm hoping for. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet, but we got to kind of wait and see what happens there. But
yeah, we got to dip our big toe into that one. They got to go slow.
Yeah.
I don't know how much jump up waves the Americans can deal with, man.
But you know what? To touch on your point, Sean, though, honestly speaking, man, that's the thing about Redman. I actually think Redman is, I think he's actually like really underrated in terms of being like a great rapper and a lyricist. Like he's amazing. Like he's honestly amazing. And it's funny, Sean, because obviously we grew up together. For some reason, I don't know why, but I remember every time I would come back home to Montreal. Anytime there was a Redman album that was out, I swear to God, it would be me and you bumping that shit like repeatedly. Because we were because I remember you were a huge fan of Redman at one point. You're just like, yo, this guy's lyrics are crazy. And I'm like, yeah,
he was ill.
I'm like, yo, he's so like he is so sick. And the thing is, he kept it just hip hop. He didn't, as you were saying last night, he didn't do the R&B stuff. He didn't cross over. He didn't do the pop stuff. He was just basically like a rapper's rapper, but like he's really underrated. Like in terms of
he was taking shots at Method Man because he was like, "Oh, I have a song for the ladies like you do." He's like, "Oh, he's the hood." He was mocking him the whole night. He's like, "Oh, another lady song." Like, I don't have any lady songs. I just got hits.
and you saw his shirt too. You saw a Redman shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It's red, J, then Big and Pac.
Yeah, and he's not. He is so underrated. It's not funny. He came out the gate spitting fire, and he consistent. I can't say that for Method Man. He got the thing of he was like Buster, where when he jumped on the song, he was like, "Yay, Method Man!" But he wasn't really saying that much stuff on those songs. It was more about the delivery and the style and stuff like that. Redman was spitting bars on every song.
But he did body those cameos, though. That's the thing with
sure.
He absolutely just annihilated. Anytime he came on, you're just like, okay, who else wants to rap? Do you want to rap?
That's why I equate him to Buster, because Buster can spit, but Buster, it was the cameos that people know Buster for.
Right.
True.
They kind of know him for the albums, like the big ones, but they really know him for hopping on like Chris Brown's song or somebody's song and throwing a hot 16 on there. That's what they know.
But you know what? They're known for that. But I'll even say Buster got some banging albums. More so than Meth.
Sure.
More so than Meth.
Like, early on?
Yeah. I think Buster's kind of underrated too as an album, as an actual with his albums, as opposed to just his features.
Yeah. I'd say Buster has like the first 4 albums from Buster are classic, solid albums.
Fire.
Top to bottom.
Yeah,
all fire.
I agree. And his last one was good too, actually. His last one?
It was.
Yeah, I've been listening to that one.
Yeah, it was. I can't lie. That one, the last one was nice. It
was surprisingly good. I was expecting that's like someone you get. Someone makes you some food and it looks like shit, and then you eat it. You're like, "What the hell is this?" Like,
it's amazing. Can I get seconds?
Yeah, like that's what that album was. I walked in there expecting nothing. I think it was Brian, your cousin, Calvin, was like, "Yo, the album's fire," and that gave me extra motivation because I love arguing with Brian. So I'm like, "Let me check this album out, man." And dude was on point, man. That album was really nice, man.
It's funny now thinking of it. Like Method Man is, and he's one of my favorite rappers, especially when I was in high school. Like Method Man, the Wu-Tang albums and just the cameos, just basically just like he carried my day sometimes in terms of my energy walking into classes. Like I was such a huge fan of Method Man to the point where I remember we had a friend of ours that I used to constantly argue with him back and forth, and he would be like, "Yo, Redman, Redman's better. I'm like, oh, shut up, Redman's not better. And I would just go back and forth. And then finally, like after like a couple years listening to Redman albums, I'm like, damn it, he's right. He's so right. Oh, Redman is so just disgusting. Like, damn it, I wish I was wrong about this. But you know what Redman reminds me of? Because he kind of reminds me of, he's like the hip hop version, and I mean he's a legend. Like, let's not even, I'm not even taking roses away from him. He's a legend. Like he deserves everything he gets, including for as far as women concerned. If they want to give him the zaddy role, give him that too. We all good. I don't care. Method Man is like, I love Method Man. Method Man's my I ride with Method Man, but Method Man reminds me of Ralph Tresvant, and the reason why I say that is because when New Edition came out, right? Like he was a star. He was a lead singer. He was a star. Everybody out of New Edition did a classic or had albums, a great solo career. And Ralph Tresvant was like, if you look back on it, he probably had the worst albums out of New Edition, like solo wise. Like, you know what I mean? He was great. He's a legend. You know what I mean? But you don't compare his albums to Johnny Gill's or Bobby Brown's or BBD, right? And Method Man's kind of like the same thing, where it's like, and I'm not saying as solos were trash, because I love Takal was probably his best. His first album was probably his best album.
It's his only good album, man.
Yeah,
I'll just say it.
But I'm just to touch on that point. Like, it's you look at Raekwon. He has like the Purple Tape, which is like, that's basically on like the Mount Rushmore of like the greatest albums ever made. ODB, his first album was like was actually amazingly fire. GZA, the one of the last events I went to before COVID came, before the lockdown came, was GZA's. I think it was the 25th anniversary of Liquid Swords. That album was crazy. Ghostface has put out some legendary albums. Depending on what you think of Bobby Digital, like there's like they put out all classic stuff. But Method Man is like, as great as he is, as talented as he is, as much of a showstopper that he is, like the solo albums didn't match up to that level of talent, which is, you know what I mean? Like that's where he kind of reminds me of Ralph Tresvant.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like I between Method Man and Redman, I was more of a Redman fan, and I listened to his albums, all of them, way more than I did Method Man. Like I like the thing though. I like Method. Like I went and bought the Takal album. Like I got a mint condition one, and I just have it sealed. I'm not even gonna play it.
Yeah,
because I like that album. But between the two of them, I always preferred Redman.
Yeah,
and Method Man was more when he was with Wu-Tang or he's doing a feature. I'm like, yeah, Method Man, because he put out all the stops for the features, and then his albums are just like, I don't know what it was, because
it was weird.
They all got the same production. So Ghostface got the same production, and Raekwon did, but somehow they got better albums.
Yeah, it's weird.
They all got RZA and Master Killer, and these guys making beats for them. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't explain it.
I can't explain it. I can't explain it either. Like, it's weird, and it's funny because like when they did their albums together, and Red and Meth did like How High, and then when they did like the Black album, it was fire. The albums were fire. But just for something, I don't know, it was just something about when he did his solo stuff. I knew it was just, you're probably gonna pick a couple of songs out of it, but that was it.
Like a single and like a couple album cuts, and like, okay, that's great. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah, it was weird. I
can't put my finger on it. But like getting back to the actual show, I thought it was good. Some of the early stuff, I like some of those songs, but I felt like if you're gonna do a concert, do a concert. And it was like in the middle because it's in the hall. Where is it? Was it in Apollo?
Yeah, I think it looked
like the Apollo.
Yeah, it was in the Apollo.
So they have it in this big building. There's nobody that's allowed to be there, and nobody's making any noise. They're just talking back and forth, and you can tell. I've seen them live perform together once, and you can tell that the stuff they were doing, their antics, would have gone over way better if there was an audience.
Yeah,
and it would have felt better and everything they do, because like they have a good rapport. They've been working together for like 20 years.
Yeah, 20, 25
years. A long time.
Yeah,
you think about it, it's a long time. Whatever it was.
Yeah,
early 90s, 2000. They've been working together.
Because How High came out in what, 95?
Yeah, it's 90 something.
Yeah.
So like they have a really good rapport, but like I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have if there was people in the audience. I could hear people like, "Oh, he's playing that song," or just people's like they're clapping or screaming or rapping to the songs. And the other thing that bothered me is that these guys were doing the lip sync thing over all the songs except a couple. I think I forgot what Wu-Tang song it was. The one when Inspector Deck and RZA came on. That's the only song
Triumph.
He didn't have. When Triumph came on, it's the only song that he didn't have his voice over the track.
Well, I mean, they weren't lip syncing, but they
were rapping over their voice.
Yeah, they're rapping. They're definitely rapping, but
it annoyed me. It took me out of it because they know the songs.
Yeah,
it's not like they had forgot the lyrics of it. They know the songs back and forth.
Yeah,
and they're able to do it on top, so it just sounded like an echo. That's how good they were reciting the songs, but he still Scratch was playing all the songs with the voice on it instead of the TV track or the instrumentals. So it was kind of weird. And another thing that bothered me, Scratch took over the show. It wasn't a Scratch show. It was a Method Man and Redman show.
And I think I was saying that on offline to you too before we started this. I'm like, yo, I am a major fan of DJ Scratch. I love DJ Scratch's work. Like he's an amazing show DJ. Like he's
producer, DJ, everything.
Legend. Yeah, he's a legend. Like he's a legend upon a legend. But I thought he controlled it a little too much yesterday too.
It was way too much. They're playing skits. They were like, "What are you guys doing?"
I thought he controlled that a little too much. I think if they just kept it with the same kind of format, even if he was DJing, I don't even mind him DJing. He should have been there, to be honest with you. But I thought if he just stuck with the format of just play the record, just play it, boom, boom, whatever they want, boom, 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 do it.
I would have preferred if they, instead of the talking and I'm going to talk about this thing here and I'm going to pull out paper here. Hit the records. You have so many records. You're not like some of these other artists where they got to stall for time. You got, between the two of you, you have at least 15 to 20 albums.
Yeah.
When you think about it, from the Wu-Tang stuff to the EPMD stuff, these guys got 20 albums worth of music.
Yeah, the singles, everything. Yeah, you're right.
The singles, the remixes, the stuff that's on album cuts. You know what I mean? Not album. I mean, soundtracks. They got records, man.
Yeah,
so the records.
Like when he played the Riddler, I was like, oh my god, I forgot about the Riddler.
Yeah, man. Actually. And the funny part about it is, he's right. He contributed to the album sales in addition to Seal.
Yeah, he did.
That was the second single from that album.
You're right. Yeah, it's true.
Jim Carrey's in that video, man.
It's
the second video. That was the second single from the album. And that thing I think it went double platinum or triple platinum.
It was huge.
That single. It was huge.
It was huge.
Here's Method Man. He's from Wu-Tang. And he's got hardcore underground rapper. And he's doing a DC movie with Batman. And he's in costume when he's doing it's like what's happening here? Like, is this a crossover? But it's actually a good crossover. It didn't feel like a sellout crossover. It felt like, this guy just
it can work. Yeah, but that's to tell you how hot he was back then. Like in terms of just like he was. There was a few guys, and that's what we say. Like we were spoiled because those guys were literally scorching the earth. Like Method Man, Redman, Biggie, Nas, like Tupac, Tribe. Like there's, we can go down like a whole list, but like everybody was like, I wouldn't say everybody, but the guys that were on top were literally they were just melting everything that they were on. Like, and to the point where it's so like now you can do a Verzuz with like a whole catalog of these guys, and some of them are still relevant. Like that's the crazy thing. Like some of these guys they're still relevant. You know what I mean?
And look at EPMD. EPMD put out 6 albums.
Yeah.
6 quality albums.
Yeah,
with records.
And it's true. Like even the last ones they put out in the late 90s, it was like, and it they were considered over the hill, but it was still fire.
It was still fire.
It was still fire. But
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like just with their energy, to touch on what Sean was saying. Like I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it's like this is where for artists and stuff, and this is why I think Verzuz is kind of important for some of these artists. you don't have a place to put this energy. I think Method Man mentioned at the beginning of this. He's like, yo, usually every 420, every year for April 20th, they're always performing in Colorado, which is like, which I'm sure it's like the whole stadium is on a contact high, right? but it's like you don't have a place to perform this. So like that energy that's built up, like these guys haven't performed in like over a year. You know what I mean? And if you're an artist, like, yeah, Method Man's acting, these guys are doing different things, but by trade, by heart, your DNAs, you're an artist. You're still going to do concerts. Like, you're still going to do these things. Tour overseas. Like, these guys are big, going to Europe and stuff. Like, I think even Redman was saying, like, up until, the pandemic, going to Europe was like going on tour in the 90s. Like, it was like, stadiums, crowds and stuff are like sold out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's like all that they're missing. You know what I mean? So it's a tough period. So like watching them perform, it's like I like that part of it because I'm like, yeah, like this is like displaced energy that they've had for over a year, and now they're just giving it to us. And who knows when they're going to be able to do this again. It's going to be probably a little while longer before they do this again. So unless they're going to do secret shows, but like that's where it's at now. And I guess to kind of segue to this too, in terms of 90s rappers, unfortunately we had the untimely passing of DMX and Black Rob happened within the span of like a week. Just what's your memories on those guys, I guess, before we kind of wrap this up a little bit, but what was your thoughts on just, I guess, their careers and just what happened and stuff? Like for me, it was unfortunate to watch like DMX, especially after, that documentary that they had, the Rough Riders documentary I think it was on BT, like earlier, was it last year? I think it was last summer they had it. And watching DMX's life, it's like you understood why he was so troubled. So to hear how he went, you're just like, man, like I really felt bad, But I'll let you guys touch it for the next couple of minutes, like what you guys want to say.
I mean, DMX. How do I say this? Like DMX was kind of like a train wreck for so many years that it wasn't a shock. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like, it'd be a different story if and I know apparently, he was doing better, and even when you saw him on the Verzuz with Snoop, but he, you could tell DMX was kind of off. He's been kind of, even with, watching him on Verzuz with Snoop, I mean, he wasn't the DMX from back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, his demons that drove him to abuse drugs, and so I saw an interview where he had said that his what's it called? His mentor, his rap mentor, older mentor, had given him weed laced with crack back in the day, and then it was ever since then that he had problems, and he was crying.
Yeah.
So, he was crying on that story, and it's sad, you know what I mean? Because it's difficult when addiction is a disease, you know what I'm saying? Like, so he's a victim of that, but it destroyed his body, it destroyed his mind when you heard him talking, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, after his prime there, he would slur all of his words together. He wouldn't really speak properly, you know what I mean? And he kept on getting arrested and not overdosing all the time, but he's always arrested, always being caught with, like, DMX would make me, how do you get arrested as many times as DMX and not be in jail? I never understood that. They get arrested like 50 times. I'm like, this guy he doesn't spend any time in jail. He just keeps on getting arrested. But anyway, so like, he was a train wreck. I think if it was a movie, you would kind of know that this was going to be his ultimate demise. Like, this guy at some point is going to overdose. You know what I mean? So it was sad, but it wasn't as devastating as if you were to. I don't want to put anybody else's name in that, put in that scenario and jinx them. But if it was another rapper, from back in the day that seemed to be doing good, and then all of a sudden, he abruptly passed, that would have been, I think, more devastating. With DMX, I can't remember who said it. Somebody said, like, at least he's at peace now, you know what I mean? And you kind of, You could kind of look at it that way.
What are your thoughts on it, Q?
For me, I was never really a huge DMX fan. Like, I always appreciated his work because he's another person that you can tell his contribution. Like, you listen, when Rough Riders came on, the Rough Riders anthem came on, everybody's like, "Oh, that's a hit." Like,
yep.
I thought in the '90s when that song came on, white girls are putting on their Starbucks cup to dance to it. Like, that's how big it was. And you think about the lyrics to that song and the impact. If they had TikTok back then,
there would have been a million videos on that.
This guy, yeah. You can't.
You saw TikTok videos in the last couple of weeks of that, like still now being pumped out.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you can't, even if you're not a fan of his or like this stuff, like, you can't deny this guy's impact, man. He carried all of Rough Riders on his back, and he had two number one albums on the charts at the same time. They just traded places. That's never happened. Michael Jackson hasn't done that.
Nobody's done that.
The Beatles. Yeah. Nobody's done that.
Nobody's done that even since.
They had two number one albums on the charts at the same time, and they just flipped places. And you're running the industry at that point. I don't think there's ever going to be another person who could be that successful on that level again and put out that much work in such a short amount of time. He basically had 3 albums in 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah.
Or something like that,
yeah. Sure.
His ability to carry the label, the studio, everything. Like, I went to Rough Rider studio, man, and there's no question whose influence was in that building. There's no question.
Yeah.
And just the people there, like, they owe everything to X.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's incredible. The thing that I found interesting is all the celebrities they're like, "Oh, here's a picture of me and X." I'm like, "Yo, why don't you do anything? Why aren't you trying to, look out for brother or whatever?" Like, everybody's like after the fact. So I like the fact that, like, for Method Man show, he was like, don't give these guys roses when they're dead. Like, you gotta show support right now.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly agree.
Yep. I
think that there's a lot of, like, Black Rob's the same thing. I was today, even before you talked about this thing, I was in Costco, and whenever I go shopping in stores like that, I wear headphones because I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the Puffy album, the first one.
Yeah.
And the Black Rob song came on. I was like, "Oh, damn, man. Forgot about this song."
Yeah, he had some stuff. He definitely had
his first album was incredible, man.
Yeah.
He had records on there.
Yeah, it was good. The funny thing is, I wasn't like the biggest Black Rob fan. I wasn't I know this sounds almost sacrilegious to say, but I wasn't a big fan of Woe. I just wasn't. Like, it still doesn't get me like how I know it gets everybody else. Like, again, I know it's sacrilegious to say, but it just wasn't one of my favorite songs. But he was a good rapper, because when I think of like his first album, I think of like like a song like what was it, 24 Hours to Live, and just like he was always in the midst of stuff. Like, even when stuff was bubbling, he just always fit in there somehow. Like, you like anytime you saw a feature in there, it's like okay, yeah, a posse cut. There was Black Rob in the middle of it.
I think that it's a failure on Puffy's part for why he didn't have a better career. It wasn't because he couldn't rap, and it wasn't because he didn't have access to beats and stuff like that. He's just busy. Puffy's worried about other stuff at the time, so all these guys, they didn't get paid, or they're in the background or whatever. And did Puff say anything?
I
don't think he could.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think he could. Like, the people who got wronged by Puff for Bad Boy, they hate him.
Yeah.
And you would think somebody like that has to say, you got to put out a statement or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he did or not. I should check while it's
I don't think he did. I don't know. I don't want to say it and I'm wrong, but I don't think there was anything special about it, anything that he said or did.
It's an unfortunate story, because again, like, it's like after DMX died, and I think that video went viral.
Days after.
Yeah, but the video went viral of him on his, like, basically on his deathbed. And you're just like, whoa, like, what is happening here? what is going on here? Like nobody knew what was happening. Like you were just like, what the hell? Like that really threw me off. You know that.
Do we know what either of these guys died from?
Not really. I know they say with what's his face with DMX that he had a heart attack, but like they're saying it's an overdose. But again,
I heard it was an overdose.
But they don't know.
Actually said.
Yeah, but they're not 100% sure as to what exactly happened. And going on Diddy's Instagram, he did make a post on.
Oh, he did?
Okay. Yeah. So you're wrong, Keo. Right. You're wrong. But yeah.
I'm wrong. I'll take that L.
But yeah, it's just it's a sad situation because it's hard kind of to touch on what you guys are saying. It's hard living. You know what I mean? You're in an industry where. Being a musician, being like a rapper, especially them days and stuff, you're living kind of hard. You're on the road a lot. Your diet's off. You're drinking, smoking, doing all this stuff. It's like it's a hard life, but then there's no health benefits that come with that too. You know what I mean? So it's like you live a hard life. There's no health benefits to kind of back them. So if these guys aren't like multi-millionaires, not every rapper is running the industry or. Blew through like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like some of these guys, maybe had the one hit album, their profits got recouped, and it's like, at the end of it all, it's like there's still like maybe a high level thousandaire, but it's that has to maybe last in the rest of their life. So it's a sad story. So it's like I think when Do It All came on yesterday on the Verzuz, it was talking about like I heard a little part where he's talking about we need a union. It should be that there should be benefits to this, but I know it's not going to be easy to put together. But somebody should do it because you're seeing these stories of some of these guys, and you're like, man, like there's nothing to cover them. There's no insurance to cover them. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. The labels should be doing that.
Yeah. There's got to be something in there, but it's a sad story to see. People that. When we were like, on the come up, coming of age, it's like these guys were like the soundtracks to our lives, and they're going way, way too young. Like I don't even know how old Black Rob was, but DMX was only 50. Like that's way too young to go. It's way too young to go. And I mean with DMX, like this is my final point. Like when he came into the industry, he really kind of saved hip hop. Because there was that void, like after Biggie and Tupac died, and like the Bad Boy era was really running heavy, but then people started getting like kind of tired of the shiny suit stuff, and he basically came and gave it he came and gave it a completely different energy. It's like all of a sudden it was like, yo, going to clubs and hard bottoms wasn't the same anymore, right? You remember that era? Like we had to, we gotta get. Oh, you gotta get dress shoes for the club again. It's like, and it's like all of a sudden it was like, okay, we can go to the club with our Air Force Ones. Okay, cool. Like that. It's like it just kind of ushered in a different era. You know what I mean? But it was needed though. Like the thing it was actually like he was huge, but he was like he made a huge impact. But that energy of his was needed at the time that he came in. It kind of reset the game a little bit.
I'm waiting for that reset for this next generation, man. It's funny looking at all of these rappers and all the testosterone and all that stuff that these guys had compared to this current generation, man. It's like night and day.
Yeah, this current generation is just flagrant, though. They be talking about smoking people they murdered and stuff. Like I don't know. I just can't get jiggy with this generation. I don't know if you guys heard that. Like, I'll be smoking on a so-and-so pack, and that's one of their ops that they killed. Like, my son played
Chicago drill stuff.
Yeah, like my son played this song for me yesterday. Like, it's a Miami song, and the guys were wearing like the video was all colorful, and they're wearing like tennis sweaters and stuff, and they're like, I'm smoking on that, and they say the person's name and dance, and he's like, yeah, those are their ops that they killed. I'm like, huh?
Really?
What's going on with this generation? Like, that's just not cool, man. Like, he's like, well, they didn't do that back in the day? I'm like, no, they didn't do that back in the day.
Dude, talking about back in the day, it was a hypothetical person of my neighborhood that I got a story about somebody I know. This is like, I actually did this, and no one's gonna do anything about it.
Yeah, and they celebrate it and laugh about it and cheer about it. Like, oh, this shit is killed.
All of the murders in Chicago are from these drill rappers, man. All of them. They're shooting up the block, and then these guys go and record a song about it right after it happens in their garage or whatever. Like, hey, I can't get into that.
No, that's like, I don't know, man. Like I was having this debate about my nephews are never gonna laugh at this, but I was having a debate, not a debate, but I sent a video of somebody, you know, that dance, the June bug, that that goes around, and I don't know. There's always a song that's affiliated with it. I don't ask what the name of the song is, but they were making fun of me because they're like, man, you sounding old right now. Because I'm like, yo, explain this to me. You know, they're like, man, you sound too old. I'm like, listen, man. I'm like, you know what? It's not for me. It's over my head, and I'm like, you know, maybe I'm not supposed to get it. You know, like that's where I'm kind of at right now in my life, and I'm like, I'm good with it. You know, like,
have you heard the lyrics to that song that he's dancing to?
No, and honestly, I don't really want to know.
Bottom something, a song called Beatbox. You listen to the lyrics about the song. This is exactly what we're talking about. I shot somebody and I'm gonna make a song about it. That's what that song is.
Oh, yeah, that dude. What's his name again, that dude?
It's Bottom something.
Yeah, bottom or something. Yeah.
Listen to the lyrics. He's bragging about something.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's
crazy.
That's the new crazy dances going on. I'm just kind of like, you know, we're all out of that demographic. You know what I mean? And it's at the stage where it's like, yo, maybe we're not supposed to get it. We're not supposed to get it. You know? And I'm okay with it. No. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. I'm not trying to make a TikTok video of myself doing that. I think I would look ridiculous. But but at this stage, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm cool. I'm good. I don't need to. I don't need to rehash that. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm past that age of like I care about this stuff. Like I listen. I looked at the stuff on my phone. All the albums are from the 90s and like early 2000s. That's all I have on my phone.
Same here.
I don't have anything older or newer on there.
Other than Griselda, I listen to Griselda.
Yeah. Outside of that, I don't have anything like newer on there.
Well, actually, I'll take that back. I listen to Griselda. I listen to J. Cole. J. Cole's a monster.
Yeah. But I don't consider J. Cole new. I don't consider J. Cole like a Kendrick new though. Like
he's more of an old school like Kendrick, man. Like,
true.
Yeah. He's trying to do the way like they're more. Even though they're current rappers, their soul is more like early 2000s, late 90s rappers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like these young kids, maybe, though, yeah.
Even Drake is not that, like, he's more of a old school rapper when you really think about it.
He's a little closer to us than he is, like you know, like the 20-year-olds and stuff, you know. I mean, even though the 20-year-olds, he's like the king of them too, but like he's more a little closer to us, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like we can still recognize like that music and still rock with it and not feel any way about it. You know what I mean? Whereas like, now you're kind of like, where's this kind of going? Like, I don't know, you know? So it's looking back at these guys that's passed now in terms of DMX and Black Rob, it's like, it's kind of like not your childhood, but it's like you're kind of like our youth is a little bit, it's kind of being, you know, stored away a little bit. You know, another piece of hip hop that we kind of grew up on is being stored away now. You know, it's being archived, and it's just like it's a little weird. You know, it's a little weird.
It's true because it brings you back to the days when you were young and X was young, and you see pictures of them when they were young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, Keo. X was like the impact he had on the game. First of all. Can you get more original than DMX? The way he talked, the way he, you know, his flow, the barking and all that. Like, he was inspired by nobody. He was a one of one.
He really was.
He, like, you know, came in there, like, just bogarted the game, made a major impact. Some of his songs that were the most popular, I didn't really like all that much. Like, Who We Be? That song was like okay.
I like that.
Huh?
I kind of like that. Actually, I can say I kind of.
I thought
that song was dope, but
catchy, right? It was catchy, but
it was very catchy.
Like dope, like, oh man, that's just dope. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? It didn't compare with his other more
it wasn't
stuff.
Rough Riders anthem. Granted, yes, I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
it was more popular at that point. That was more popular. And then what was that? Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Oh, I hated that song. Jeez, I hated that song. That's when X was over the hill. What is this garbage? But either way, man. But he definitely goes down as a classic. You know what I mean? He cemented his position in hip hop history, man. I gotta say.
Yeah,
for sure.
And one of my underrated favorite songs of his is "Stop Being Greedy." Like that.
That is dope. That's super dope.
I still love that song. I heard it, because now you're hearing these DMX tributes and stuff, and somebody played it the other day, and I was just like, "Ooh, yeah, that one still hits me. That one still hits me."
And you know the concept of that, right? Good versus evil. When the beat changes, the personality changes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But you're right though. One of one. Like there really isn't anybody like him. He's kind of like ODB, just like
yeah. I was about to say that. This is exactly like ODB, original and greatly missed when he was gone.
Yep,
it's true. Both of them left young. I didn't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 1,000%. To wrap up though, I know Sean. I wanted to give you like a couple of minutes to kind of explain what's happening with St. Vincent. As people know, the volcanoes have been erupting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines the last few weeks, and if you're following along with that story, it's heartbreaking as to what's happening right now. But I know there are people that are helping in terms of giving back to the country and trying to get items and cargoes and different things to go over there to help the people, especially the ones that are still stuck on the island, unfortunately. And it's still happening. I know it's like I'm afraid. I'm hoping it doesn't turn into a Monster Rat situation, but it's like it's getting the fact that it's not stopping. It's a little nerve wracking. But I know you're part of something where you're kind of giving back. So I kind of want to give you this space for the next little bit before we wrap up to I guess explain what the situation is, where we can donate.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not really me running it. I'll be honest. It's Karen and her family. They're from St. Vincent. They're from Layou, which is an area that's not affected, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's not in the heart of it. Of course, everywhere on the island is at least some way touched by ash, because the ash is traveling even, to Barbados and whatnot. But it's really sad. It's a lot of devastation going on out there, especially like in the red zones. They're literally shoveling ash. The ash look, when there are eruptions or explosions. It looks like it's snowing. It's like crazy that those people have to inhale that and be around that. And, the ash is so heavy, it's destroying homes, and it's like, greenery and all the beautiful, all the beautiful vegetation and whatnot, man. A lot of it is being destroyed. A lot of the water is undrinkable, and they don't have running water in a lot of the affected areas. And so it's a lot of, I think I've seen a lot of positive, a lot of positivity, and a lot of people donating. I'll just say be careful where you donate. I've heard a lot of stories of, the money not getting to the people that need it. People in the shelters, sometimes who run the shelters, taking a bit off the top for themselves, and even when goods are donated, some of it doesn't get to the people that need it. So what Karen and her family decided to do was link up with some people, connect with some people out there in St. Vincent to start a GoFundMe, and get the money to the people out there in St. Vincent who can get it to people on the ground as quick as possible. Because, sometimes when you donate, then they're going to ship things out there and what have you, but people need things now, like they they have nothing to eat now. They have nothing to drink now. So that's where she's trying to focus more of her energy. I can give you the GoFundMe if you could put the link on
the pod. Yeah,
on the info on the pod. But yeah, man, that's it. Like, I mean, anybody and any donation is appreciated. Anything at all. I know people are going through a tough time in North America as well with COVID. You have a lot of people without jobs and stuff. So, but any little bit. And like you said, I don't think it's going to be a monster rat situation, but it's definitely, they're talking about, this can go on for months, for up to a year or something of that nature. So, people are going to be struggling for a long time, and they're going to need a lot of help out there.
Like I said, man, my thoughts and prayers definitely go out to everybody that's affected, from St. Vincent, from their families, even the people who have family that's from there. My heart goes out to you guys, and, you hope this thing stops, because like you're seeing some of the footage, like it is, man, like as you said, like you're seeing them shovel ash like it's snow. Morning looks like pitch black at night, with all the ash, like that stuff is just like it's like it really boggles my mind, man. So like I'm wishing the very best for everybody over there, and just we got to do what we can to help, hopefully, as much as we can, with what we have. So if anything we could do, like I said, send me the link, and I'll definitely attach it to the pod, so whoever wants to donate can. But
cool. Thank you, man.
No doubt. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the AV Podcast. Special shout out goes out to DJ Keo and Sean Adonis for joining me on the podcast and having this conversation. I'll be back next week with some more content. But before we do that, I just want to remind you one more time to please, if you're able to do so, go click on the St. Vincent GoFundMe recovery link that Sean and his family are a part of. It's hyperlinked to the body of this podcast. Any amount will do. My thoughts and prayers are with the people dealing with that ordeal. It's going to take a lot of help to help that country recover. So they're going to need all the help that they can get right now. His family thanks you in advance if you're going to do that. Please, thank you. Thank you once again for tuning in. Continue to listen, rate, review, and follow the podcast for all new episodes, however you listen to my podcast. And check out SouthShoreAv.com to dive deep into my catalog of shows. Once again, that's SouthShoreAv.com. For DJ Keo and Sean Adonis, this is Cal C. And you just tuned into the AV Podcast on South Shore Ave Radio. Until next time, folks, peace. We out.